Roman and Ada Schleybaugh allowed us to visit with them on their Holmes County farm. The Amish don't believe in posing for pictures, so you won't see any close-up shots of this Amish family, but you will hear what they have to say.
Our farm is 134 acres. And my dad bought this farm back in 1929. On our farm we grow oats, corn, alfalfa hay, and humus hay. So usually we got a good oat crop. It'd be as much as 100 bushels to an acre. And corn goes as high as 150 bushels to an acre to 200 bushels an acre if you got the right kind of weather.
Yeah, I'd say it is a good producing farm.
I started plowing when I was 8 years old. When I was about 13 or 14 years old, I thought I'm never going to be a farmer. And after I was up just about 21, I didn't want to do anything else but farming. We got 6 sons and 3 daughters. Well, our son Eli is the youngest for our family, and he does the farming. Eli took a welding course about 2 years ago, and he's pretty good at welding, so he built himself a bale wagon. It's a hydraulic arm on the side. He puts on 4 big bales, and it works fine. Even the neighbors come in here and borrow it from him.
While their parents work, Amish children go to school. These are one-room schools where students from 1st grade through 8th grade are taught together. After 8th grade, Amish children start learning a skill or trade.
We got our parochial schools. We got to pay for our own teachers, and we got to pay for our own books, but we still got to pay for taxes for just like anybody else, but we don't get state aid for our teachers, so we got to support them for ourselves.
The subjects that the children learn about in school are reading, writing, arithmetic, English, and geography and history. Pretty much what the public schools learn, too.
After school, there is always work to do on the family farm.
Our children start helping when they're small.
Once they came home from school, they had to change clothes into everyday working clothes. And each one had their separate job every night. And as they grew older, they had more heavier work.
After they get grown up, most of them want to be on a farm again.
But Amish farms are typically small, and Amish families are usually large. Dividing a small farm among several sons would result in farms too small to be self-sustaining. So many young Amish men are not able to farm their own land.
To go out and work in the machine shops or welding shops or furniture shops.
With their reputation for hard work and fine craftsmanship, the Amish are eagerly welcomed into these trades. Perhaps no single event characterizes the Amish more than a barn raising. When an Amish family needs a new barn, well, don't blink or you might miss something special. Literally hundreds of people coming together to help a neighbor.
Well, on the day of a barn raising, usually the men are there by the time the sun comes over the horizon, and usually by noontime, they got the roof on the barn already. So it's wonderful.
Just like in sickness or death, you know, we get together and help each other.
We got our funerals at our home, not in the funeral home. We got burial grounds on our farms here. We're about a mile from here. We got our burial ground where our parents are buried. Just about all the Amish people can talk German and English because they speak German before they go to school, and after they go to school, they have to learn English. We always speak German at home, but the German is a lot easier for me than the English is. But my English isn't good anyhow.
Buggies are an Amish icon. But do the Amish feel safe on roads dominated by cars? Well, that depends on who you ask.
I heard that question quite often already. Aren't you afraid to be on the road? No, not really. If we person do just what the law says, we're all right.
It's a wonder that there's not more wrecks and that we don't have more accidents than we do.
Now they got two traffic lights in Berlin, which really helped out because the people got to stop. Before, you just hardly couldn't cross the road anymore. It's a lot better it was, but it's still it's really busy.
Some people visit Amish country and wonder where they can find an Amish church.
Old Amish people worship in their home.
Amish families take turns hosting the worship service. This seems to make the Amish even more close-knit, and it allows them time to share their experiences.
In the summertime, we go out under a shade tree or on a porch and do our visiting there, then we leave for home. We kind of enjoy it that way.
The Schlebaus often have non-Amish visitors in their home, and these guests are always treated to a traditional Amish meal.
We usually have like maybe potatoes and noodles and 2 kinds of meat and a salad, homemade bread, some kind of dessert afterwards. That's pretty much the menu. They do spend a lot of time in the kitchen. The other night we had a couple here from California, and she told us that she's got a daughter and a granddaughter living in New York, and that about twice a week they email each other, and she can even see the granddaughter and the granddaughter can see her and didn't talk together. Isn't that amazing? I can't understand it. There's lots being talked about the new technology, but we just kind of are satisfied staying away with it as much as we can.
It doesn't seem to bother us. We are well satisfied the way we are living, and we're not looking for anything else, so it's just our lifestyle.
No electricity, no cars, no photographs. The Amish have chosen the simple life. Why?
When Jesus was here on earth, he lived a very simple life, and we want to follow him, follow in his footsteps as best we can.
Their ancestors were Swiss mountain farmers from the canton of Bern. Already a stubbornly rural and tradition-loving people, they sidestepped the priesthood in the Reformation of the 1520s and began to read the Bible and meet in groups with lay leaders. In simple response to the teachings of Jesus, they abandoned warfare, refused to take civil oaths, and made baptism an act of voluntary adult commitment to the church. What the Amish lose in speed, they gain in fellowship. Work, under the right circumstances, is as enjoyable as play. Shared work is, in many cases, the Amishman's recreation. A tractor is allowed for belt power, but not to pull equipment in the field. That would be crossing an invisible technological line that the Amish define for the sake of their community. They sense just how much change their community can support without coming apart at the seams, by getting onto the uncontrollable escalator of progress. By resisting technological change, or at least slowing it down to controllable speed, the Amish also keep their old people from becoming obsolete as fast as the machinery of their youth is outmoded. Maintaining simple ways of farming lessens the distance between the generations. Shared within the family, hard work becomes a seasonal ritual. You've done it before with your parents, and you'll do it again in the same way with your children. Greater speed and size in their implements might eliminate some labor, but the Amish find their happiness and meaning in labor, rather than in escape from it. So much of what seems different about the Amish is only their continuing to practice what everybody used to, long after almost everybody else has stopped doing it. By not forgetting the art of the windmill, the Amish preserve for the rest of us a visual link with our own pre-urbanized past.
Ohio. In thousands of homes, the clock radios sound off and the coffee makers begin to perk. But not in Roman Hirschberger's house.
We do not have coffee machines.
What about a clock radio?
I don't have a clock radio at all.
Roman Hirschberger is Amish. A retired carpenter, he spends his days teaching tourists about Amish ways at the Yoder Amish home near Millersburg. Like all Amish, he'd rather not show his face on camera while being interviewed. It's part of his church district's set of rules, or Ordnung. The Ordnung keeps the modern world at bay to preserve the unique Amish culture. The Ordnung is why the Amish get around in horse and buggies, why they look and dress differently, why their Sunday suits don't have buttons but use hook and eyes or pins, and why they're not even connected to the national power grid.
It's not that we think the outside power is wrong, but the reason we do that way we are not tempted to get things like television, computers, and things like that.
Roman Hirschberger may not have a television or computer in his home, but perched on the roof of his house is that most modern form of clean energy, the solar panel.
It's the cheapest way that you can have power, and it's safe. If you have someone set them up that knows what they're doing, I think it's just a great unit.
Roman's not the only one in his community to think that way. Holmes County, Ohio has more Amish than any other county in the United States, about 20,000 of the country's estimated 200,000 Amish. And everywhere you look in Holmes County, solar panels are sprouting up on Amish rooftops. New Scientist magazine estimates that 80% of Amish homes in Holmes County have at least one solar panel. The solar power is used to charge batteries which run the mandatory safety lights on their buggies, or power lights that replace dangerous gas lamps in wooden barns, maybe even run a kitchen appliance, or power an unusual light that rolls around the house to where it's needed.
Wayne and Holmes County has per capita the largest solar electric use in the entire state.
Ethan Barkoukas is the Northeast Ohio Program Manager for Green Energy Ohio, a nonprofit that promotes solar power. He says people are amazed when he shows them how readily the Amish have taken to solar power.
We see them as unsophisticated, but I think that's our ignorance of their community and what they're doing. And if you bring people from other cities to Wayne and Holmes County, their eyes would light up. They would not imagine what is going down here.
There are 206 church districts in central Ohio alone, each making its own decisions about what technology to permit.
To the rest of society, some of the choices that were made just don't make sense at all.
Which is why you might see an Amish man from one church district driving a tractor, while another is working his team of horses across a field. In the mid-1990s, most, but not all church districts began to allow Amish businesses to use solar power.
The old order, which comprised about 75% of our Amish population, and they have, in the last few years, have adopted it very readily.
That acceptance has now crossed over to limited home use.
You come to Wayne and Holmes County and you can drive around, and practically on every street you'll see one or two panels on homes.
Ethan Barkoukas of Green Energy Ohio is reluctant to call the Amish leaders in the use of solar power.
They're leaders, and yet they don't want to be leaders. They want to sit quietly and live their own lives and not be disturbed by the outside community.
Solar panels or not, the Amish are determined to stay far behind on the technology curve.
You know, there is a sacrifice to make to have it that way. Sometimes you think, yes, it'd be nice to have all these modern things, but then soon there won't be no Amish. That's just the way it works.
Which means that should you visit Holmes County, Ohio, you may find solar panels on the houses, but not coffee makers inside them.